The vast emptiness of space rippled as reality itself seemed to tear open. From the wound emerged a vessel of impossible proportions, the HS Prometheus, humanity's first and greatest Titan-class warship. Its dark hull absorbed the distant starlight, making it appear like a moving shadow against the cosmos. Stretching nearly 5 kilometers from bow to stern, the Prometheus dwarfed anything humans had built before. Admiral Kim stood tall on the command deck, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. His dark uniform wore the simple insignia of Earth's United Defense Force. Decades of preparation had led to this moment. He watched his crew work with practiced precision, each person moving with purpose and focus. "All systems reporting green, Admiral," said Officer Yuna, her fingers dancing across her console. Hyperspace transition complete with no structural stress detected. Earth had developed in complete isolation, unknown to the vast network of civilizations that formed the Galactic Confederation. 20 years ago, Earth's deep space listening posts had detected unusual signals, patterns too regular to be natural. The discovery had changed everything, accelerating humanity's technological development, as governments worldwide united behind a single purpose: to prepare for whatever awaited them among the stars. "Status report," Kim ordered calmly, his deep voice carrying throughout the bridge without him raising it. Lieutenant Park looked up from her console, her eyes reflecting the data streams flowing across her screens. "All systems nominal. Admiral, we've emerged at the coordinates as planned." She paused, her expression changing slightly. "Sensors are detecting significant artificial structures and vessel activity." The bridge fell silent. For decades, humanity had debated whether they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. Kim nodded, his face remaining composed despite the historic confirmation. "So we're not alone after all." The massive view screen at the front of the bridge shifted, displaying the star system they had entered. In the distance, artificial lights twinkled around a rocky planet, space stations, and vessels moving in ordered patterns. "Magnify Sector 4, Kim commanded. The image zoomed in, revealing spacecraft of various designs. None approached even a quarter of the Prometheus's size. Lieutenant Sung, the weapons officer, spoke up. "Sir, should we power defensive systems?" Kim shook his head. "Passive shields only. We're visitors here. Let's not appear threatening." Communications Officer Jin turned in her chair. "Admiral, we're detecting numerous transmission bursts. They appear to be alerts or warnings spreading through their network." "Expected," Kim replied. "We'd do the same if an unknown vessel appeared in our system." Across the system, the arrival of the human ship sent shockwaves through the Confederation network. Emergency protocols activated automatically as the massive unknown vessel materialized without warning. Aboard the Confederation Security Fleet flagship Guardian, alarms blared with urgent intensity. Crew members rushed to stations as red warning lights pulsed throughout the vessel. Admiral Tai rushed onto the command deck, his uniform hastily fastened. A veteran of border conflicts with the Meridian Collective, Ta had never encountered a situation like this. "Report," he demanded. "Unknown vessel appeared through what appears to be an artificial wormhole, Admiral," replied his second-in-command. "Nothing like our jump technology." The main display showed sensor readings of the massive human ship. The Guardian, previously considered one of the largest warships in the Confederation, had 800 meters, would barely reach the newcomer's midsection. "Energy readings?" Tai asked, his voice steady despite his rising concern. "Off the charts, sir. Power generation beyond anything in our database. And those are just the systems they're not trying to hide." Admiral Ta stared at the sensor readings in disbelief, his experienced eyes noting details that made his blood run cold. The vessel's whole composition, the positioning of what appeared to be weapon emplacements, the massive engine array, all spoke of advanced military technology. "What in the stars is that monstrosity?" he whispered. Back aboard the Prometheus, The bridge crew continued monitoring the increasing activity in the system. "They're mobilizing," Admiral Lieutenant Park reported. "Multiple vessels changing course to intercept. Based on their formation, I believe they're establishing a containment perimeter." Kim nodded. "A logical response. Deploy communication buoys. Let's make our intentions clear before someone makes a mistake." Outside the massive warship, small satellites detached from the hull, broadcasting Earth's carefully prepared first contact package. Basic mathematical sequences, simple atomic models, and gradually more complex information designed to establish peaceful communication. Officer Jin's console lit up. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions directed at us. Multiple frequencies, structured data patterns. Begin analysis. Feed everything through the translation matrix," Kim ordered. The Prometheus's artificial intelligence system began processing the alien signals, searching for patterns and meaning. In the ship's observation lounge, Science Director Hannah watched the distant lights of alien vessels through the reinforced viewport. After a lifetime studying theoretical xenobiology, she was about to learn how right or wrong her theories had been. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked Chief Engineer Sue, joining her. "Terrifying and wonderful," Hannah replied. "We prepared for so many scenarios, but nothing compares to the reality." Across the system, the Confederation forces scrambled to respond. The peaceful trading system had never faced a potential threat of this magnitude. On the Guardian, Admiral Ta reviewed the tactical options with his staff. "The vessel has made no aggressive moves," his tactical officer noted. "Yet," Tay responded, "but look at that design. Those aren't the lines of a diplomatic vessel or trader." His communications officer interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving data packets from the unknown ship. Appears to be some kind of communication attempt." Analysis. Basic mathematical sequences, atomic models, similar to our own first contact protocols. They're trying to establish communication. Ta considered this information, so they're not immediately hostile. That's something, at least. He made his decision. Maintain defensive posture but respond to their communication attempts. Alert the Council that we have a first contact situation with an unknown species possessing technology that rivals or exceeds our own. As the Confederation ships cautiously approached, the Prometheus waited patiently, its massive presence forever changing the galaxy's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. "Unknown vessel approaching," Admiral Lieutenant Park announced, her eyes fixed on the holographic display tracking the movement of a sleek, crescent-shaped craft. "They appear to be scanning us." Deep spectrum analysis, by the readings. The small alien ship moved with deliberate caution, maintaining what its crew likely considered a safe distance from the colossal human warship. The Prometheus dwarfed it like a whale beside a minnow. Admiral Kim straightened his uniform, adjusting the collar of his midnight blue jacket. The simple gold pins on his collar caught the light as he moved. This moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Open communications on all frequencies. Send the first contact package we prepared." Communications Officer Jin nodded, her fingers dancing across the haptic interface. "Transmitting now, sir." The message streamed outward from the Prometheus. Mathematical sequences, atomic models, simple pictograms of human form, and basic linguistic patterns. Decades of academic debate had gone into crafting these sequences, designed to convey peaceful intentions while establishing basic communication. "They'd received our transmission," Jin confirmed. "Their scanning intensity has changed. They appear to be focusing on our communication array now." Kim nodded. "Good. They understand we're trying to talk." Lieutenant Park's console beeped urgently. "Sir, multiple additional vessels detected. Emerging from behind the third planet. Formation suggests military configuration." The main view screen shifted to show a group of vessels moving in tight formation. Unlike the scout ship, these had the unmistakable lines of warships, angular, heavily armored, bristling with what appeared to be weapon mounts. Defensive posture only, Kim ordered calmly. No targeting locks. Let's not give them any reason to feel threatened. Across the vast emptiness of space, aboard the Confederation scout vessel Celestial Observer, Commander June received the human transmission. The Celestial Observer, though small compared to the Prometheus, represented the pinnacle of Confederation reconnaissance technology. Its curved hull gleamed with a soft blue luminescence, marking it as a non-combat vessel. Commander June studied the incoming data with growing fascination. His four-fingered hand tapped commands into his console as the ship's computers processed the alien message. "These symbols, they're unlike anything in our database," he said, addressing his bridge crew. The patterns flowed across his screen, mathematical sequences recognizable in concept but presented in an entirely unfamiliar notation system. "Their numerical base appears to be 10 rather than our 12, noted his science officer. "Primitive, but logical for a binary-limbed species." The young xenolinguist Officer Lee stepped forward. Lee had been assigned to the Celestial Observer specifically because of his talent with new languages. Where most linguists required years to grasp the basics of an unknown language, Lee could often establish communication within days. "Commander, with your permission, I believe I can establish a baseline for communication," Lee said, eyes bright with excitement. "Their communication structure suggests similar cognitive patterns to our own. They're using mathematics as a foundation, just as our protocols suggest." Commander June nodded. "Proceed, but be cautious. We know nothing about their intentions." Lee moved to the communication station and began crafting a response. He mirrored the human mathematical sequences, but included Confederation numerical notation alongside them, a bridge between the two systems. "I'm also including basic identifier signals for common elements," Lee explained as he worked. "If they understand the atomic structure patterns they sent us, they should recognize these." Aboard the Prometheus, Communications Officer Jin's console lit up with an incoming transmission. "Admiral, we're receiving a response," she announced, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Structured data. They're mirroring our mathematical sequences and adding their own notation system alongside." Science Director Hannah rushed to the communication station. "They understand. Look, they're providing a comparative mathematical framework. Basic translation should be possible." Kim allowed himself a small smile. "Begin response. Mirror their additions and expand on the language framework." As the two vessels exchanged increasingly complex information packets, ships from both sides maintained their positions, watching cautiously. The initial fear was gradually giving way to cautious curiosity. On the Confederation capital world of Harmonia Center, the Council of Species convened an emergency session. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the Grand Chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of concern. High Counselor Munn called for order, her amplified voice cutting through the chaos. "The facts as we know them. An unknown vessel of unprecedented size has appeared at the edge of the Crescent System. It appears technologically advanced and heavily armed, but has made no aggressive moves and is attempting communication." "What species are they?" called out a representative from the back. The intelligence director stepped forward. "Initial visual data suggests they are bipedal, endoskeletal, and remarkably similar to Terran primates. However, they appear to be from an uncharted region beyond the Eastern Void. No record of their civilization exists in our archives." A murmur spread through the chamber. Preliminary environmental readings from their communication satellites suggest they evolved on a high-gravity world with toxic atmospheric composition, the intelligence director continued. "Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, heavy metals in their soil, extreme temperature variations, and high radiation levels. They would be classified as Deathworlders." The chamber erupted in alarmed voices. Deathworlders, species that evolved on planets hostile to most sentient life, were rare in the Confederation. The few known species had reputations for exceptional physical resilience and, often, aggressive tendencies born from harsh evolutionary pressures. Back in the Crescent System, the communication between species continued to develop. The Prometheus had deployed a more advanced communication satellite, equipped with powerful computers dedicated to language processing. Lieutenant Park monitored the situation closely. The smaller vessel is maintaining position. The military formation has stopped advancing but remains at ready status. Admiral Kim nodded. Reasonable. We'd do the same. Science Director Hannah looked up from her work with the linguistics team. Admiral, we're making remarkable progress. Their language structure is complex, but follows logical patterns. We're beginning to understand basic concepts. What have we learned about them? They call themselves the Galactic Confederation, a multi-species alliance of 27 spacefaring civilizations. The vessel we're communicating with belongs to a species called the Elam. The military vessels appear to be primarily operated by a species called the Vortic. Kim absorbed this information. Do they understand what we are? I believe they're still trying to place us, Hannah replied. There's considerable communication traffic between their vessels. They seem surprised by our appearance. Aboard the Celestial Observer, Officer Lee worked tirelessly, his eyes red-rimmed from hours of concentration. Commander, he said, looking up from his station, I believe I can now establish real-time basic communication. Their language processing is remarkably efficient. Commander June nodded. Open a direct channel. The view screen flickered, resolving into the image of Admiral Kim on the Prometheus bridge. Both commanders regarded each other with cautious interest. Two species, evolved light years apart, facing each other for the first time. I am Commander June of the Confederation vessel Celestial Observer, June began, the translation system converting his words into approximations of human language. We welcome peaceful contact. Admiral Kim nodded solemnly. I am Admiral Kim of the human spaceship Prometheus. We come in peace from Earth, seeking friendly relations. Across the Confederation, the news spread rapidly. A new species had arrived, powerful and unknown. They called themselves humans, and they had emerged from nowhere with technology that rivaled or exceeded the Confederation's best. And most concerning of all, they were Deathworlders, evolved on a planet that would kill most sentient Confederation species within minutes. The Confederation Council chamber buzzed with agitated voices. The curved hall, designed to amplify sound for species with different hearing capabilities, now echoed with concerned tones from 24 different species. Emergency lights glowed softly along the walls, signaling the unusual nature of this gathering. Order, please, called High Counselor Munn, her voice cutting through the noise. Her scaled skin reflected the chamber's lights as she stood at the central podium. We must approach this situation with clear minds. The chamber gradually quieted. Representatives from 27 worlds sat in tiered seats, their diverse forms a testament to the Confederation's inclusive nature. Some breathed through gills, others had multiple limbs, and a few floated in special tanks. The Intelligence Division has completed its preliminary analysis of the human vessel, announced Director Sang, activating a holographic display in the chamber center. The image of the Prometheus rotated slowly above the floor. Highlighted sections indicated what the Confederation believed to be weapons systems, propulsion technology, and defensive capabilities. This human vessel possesses weapon systems that could devastate entire fleets, argued Counselor Han, rising from his seat. His ceremonial robes of office flowed around his tall, slender form. We cannot allow such a threat to exist unchecked. Han pointed to specific sections of the hologram. These appear to be mass drivers capable of accelerating projectiles to near light speed. These energy signatures suggest directed energy weapons of unknown design, and their hull composition suggests defensive capabilities beyond our most advanced warships. Murmurs of concern spread through the chamber. Furthermore, Han continued, his voice growing louder, they claim to come from beyond the Eastern Void, a region we've never successfully explored due to unusual spatial distortions. How convenient that they alone possess the technology to cross this barrier. What are you suggesting, Counselor? Asked Munn. that their story may be fabricated, that this could be an advanced scout for an invasion force. The vessel's obvious military design supports this theory. Counselor Moon rose from her seat, her elegant movements betraying her species' lower gravity origins. Yet they have made no aggressive moves, she countered. Their Admiral Kim has accepted our invitation to the capital and seems genuine in his peaceful intentions. She gestured toward a different section of the hologram. Look at their communication attempts, extensive, detailed, and consistently peaceful in tone. If conquest were their aim, why announce themselves with a single vessel? Why engage in such elaborate communication efforts? To lull us into complacency, Han shot back. To gain intelligence on our defenses and capabilities. Or, Moon replied calmly, they are exactly what they claim to be. Explorers who prioritize defensive capabilities because they didn't know what they might encounter. The debate continued as various counselors voiced their concerns and opinions. Some supported Han's cautious approach, while others aligned with Moon's more optimistic view. What of their homeworld? Asked a representative from the aquatic delegation. What have we learned? Director Sang adjusted the hologram. They call it Earth. From what we've gathered, it would be classified as a death world by our standards. High gravity, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere toxic to many of our species, extreme climate variations, dangerous wildlife, and regular natural disasters. Deathworlders, someone muttered, the word spreading through the chamber like a chill. Species that evolved on such harsh worlds were rare in the Confederation. The few known examples were noted for their physical resilience and often their aggressive tendencies, evolutionary necessities for survival in such environments. I propose a middle path, offered Counselor Da, an elder respected for his diplomatic skill. We welcome this Admiral Kim as planned. We learn what we can about these humans, but we also quietly prepare our defenses and place our fleets on alert status. High Counselor Mun nodded. A reasonable compromise. We shall proceed with caution and courtesy in equal measure. Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Kim addressed his officers in the ship's strategic command center. The room was austere by civilian standards, functional displays, comfortable but simple seating, and excellent acoustic design for clear communication. The senior staff gathered around the central table. Science Director Hana, Chief Engineer Su, Security Chief Jun, Communications Officer Jin, and Lieutenant Park. Each wore the simple dark uniform of Earth's United Space Command, with subtle insignia indicating their specialties. We represent all of humanity now, Kim said, his voice solemn. Our actions here will determine our place in this galactic community. He gestured to the holographic display showing the Confederation capital world they were approaching, a gleaming blue-green planet orbited by impressive space stations. The Confederation appears to be a stable alliance of multiple species. Their technology is comparable to ours in many areas, though we hold advantages in propulsion and defensive systems. Their society seems built around cooperation and trade. Science Director Hannah nodded. Their language processing has allowed us to access their public information networks. Their confederation has existed for over 300 years, beginning with 3 species and gradually expanding. They appear to value stability and consensus. And yet, Kim continued, we must remember that any civilization, no matter how peaceful its appearance, will act to protect itself from perceived threats. And we, he gestured around the room, with our massive warship and unknown origins, represent a significant unknown factor to them. Lieutenant Park frowned, looking up from her console. Sir, I've detected unusual communications among certain Confederation vessels. Encrypted transmissions using frequencies outside their standard protocols. Can you decode them? Asked Security Chief June. Park shook her head. Not yet, but the pattern suggests compartmentalized communication, information being deliberately kept from other parts of their fleet. Official channels or something else? Kim asked. Impossible to determine with certainty, Park replied. But based on transmission sources and destinations, I believe some factions may be planning something against us. Kim nodded grimly. Not unexpected. No united front ever truly speaks with one voice. He looked around the table at each officer in turn. Keep our defensive systems ready, but under no circumstances are we to fire first. If provoked, we will demonstrate our capabilities with minimal force. The diplomatic shuttle is prepared for your journey to the surface. Admiral, Chief Engineer Sue reported. Atmospheric composition has been adjusted to match Earth standard. Security systems are active but concealed. Kim nodded. I'll take a small team. Hannah for scientific expertise, Jin for communications, and Jun for security. Lieutenant Park will command the Prometheus in my absence. Sir, Park asked, what if these encrypted communications indicate a planned attack while you're on the surface? Standard defensive protocols apply, Kim replied firmly. Protect the ship but minimize casualties. And continue attempting to open communications throughout. Remember, misunderstandings at this stage could have consequences lasting centuries. As the meeting concluded, Kim remained at the table, studying the holographic image of the approaching planet. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. The simulations had always focused on a simple binary. Would they be hostile or friendly? Reality, as always, proved more complex. The Confederation wasn't simply one thing. It was billions of individuals across dozens of species, each with their own fears, ambitions, and prejudices. Some would welcome humanity with open arms. Others would fear or resent them. Kim's communicator chimed softly. Admiral, came Officer Jin's voice. The Confederation diplomatic vessel has arrived to escort us to the capital. They've sent docking instructions for our shuttle. Acknowledge receipt and inform them we'll be ready to depart in 30 minutes, Kim replied. He took one last look at the planet they were approaching. Somewhere down there, the fate of human Confederation relations would be decided. Councils would debate, intelligence agencies would analyze, and ordinary citizens would form their first impressions of humanity. And meanwhile, in the shadows, it seemed someone was making plans of their own. The attack came without warning, not against the Prometheus, but against a civilian station at the edge of the system, Harmony Station, a floating city of 30,000 civilians, sparkled like a jewel against the darkness of space. Its rotating rings housed families from a dozen species, all going about their daily lives. Lieutenant Park was the first to detect the approaching vessels. Admiral, I'm tracking 6 unidentified ships on approach to Harmony Station, she reported, her fingers flying across the tactical display. They're running without identification transponders and are ignoring station controls hails. Admiral Kim moved to her station, studying the data. The diplomatic meeting on the Confederation capital had been postponed due to scheduling conflicts, leaving the Prometheus in orbit. Show me, he ordered. The main view screen shifted to display 6 angular vessels closing rapidly on the civilian station. Their design was unlike the sleek Confederation ships. These were cobbled together, with mismatched hull sections and exposed weaponry. Pirates, Kim said, recognizing the profile from the Confederation security briefings they'd received. The scared band. They prey on civilian targets throughout this sector. Communications Officer Jin looked up from her console. Sir, we're receiving a distress call from Harmony Station. The pirates are demanding access to their antimatter storage facilities. Kim's decision was immediate. Helm, set intercept course. All hands to battle stations. The massive Prometheus responded instantly, its powerful engines flaring to life. Despite its enormous size, the warship accelerated with remarkable speed, leaving a trail of blue energy as it raced toward the endangered station. Throughout the ship, alert klaxons sounded. Crew members rushed to their assigned positions, the months of drills paying off as everyone responded with practiced efficiency. Weapons status, Kim asked as he took his command chair. All defensive systems online, reported Security Chief June. Point defense grid at full capacity. Main batteries charged and ready. Communications. Officer Jin nodded. Channel open to Harmony Station. Confederation Defense Fleet has also acknowledged the distress call. Admiral Tay's battle group is responding but is 20 minutes out. The pirates have begun their attack. Lieutenant Park announced grimly. They're targeting the station's defensive systems first. On the screen, they could see flashes of weapons fire as the pirate vessels circled the civilian station like predators. The station's minimal defenses were already failing under the coordinated assault. Close to firing range in 45 seconds, Helm Officer Du reported. Kim's voice was calm but firm. Our objective is to protect the civilian station and neutralize the pirate threat with minimal casualties. We are not here to destroy, only to defend. The Prometheus approached the battle zone rapidly, its massive hull now clearly visible to both the pirates and the station. Sir, we're being hailed by the pirate vessels, Jin reported. On screen, Kim ordered. The view screen displayed a scared face with cybernetic implants where the left eye should have been. The pirate captain's expression shifted from arrogance to confusion as he took in the bridge of the human vessel. What manner of ship is this? The pirate demanded. This sector is claimed by the scared band. Leave now or be destroyed. Kim's response was measured. This is Admiral Kim of the Earth vessel Prometheus. You are attacking a civilian installation. Cease your assault immediately and withdraw. The pirate laughed, a harsh sound. A new species with a new ship, impressive size, but that just makes you a bigger target. We have raided Confederation space for decades. Your ship will make a fine addition to our fleet once we capture it. The transmission cut off. They're turning to engage us, Park reported. All 6 vessels. Kim nodded. They've made their choice. Defensive systems to maximum. Prepare to demonstrate our capabilities. The pirate vessels surged toward the Prometheus, weapons firing. Energy beams and projectiles streaked toward the human warship. What happened next would be recorded and studied by Confederation military academies for decades to come. The Prometheus's point defense grid activated, thousands of interconnected nodes across the ship's hull tracking and neutralizing incoming fire with impossible precision. Laser interceptors vaporized projectiles, while electromagnetic fields deflected energy weapons. Return fire, Kim ordered. Disable their propulsion and weapon systems. Non-lethal response. The Titan-class vessel's main batteries fired, not the devastating salvo that could have vaporized the pirate ships, but precisely calibrated shots that targeted engines and weapon emplacements. The first pirate vessel spun out of control as its engines died. The second found its weapons suddenly inoperable. The remaining 4 ships attempted to scatter, but the Prometheus moved with impossible grace for its size, maneuvering to cut off their escape routes. Its point defense systems continued to neutralize every attack with surgical precision. Sir, Confederation vessels approaching, Park announced. Admiral Tay's battle group. The Confederation response fleet arrived to find the battle already decided. 5 pirate vessels drifted powerless, their weapons and engines disabled but life support intact. The 6th was attempting to flee but making little progress against the Prometheus's targeting systems. Admiral Ta watched from the bridge of his flagship as the human vessel completed its work. The final pirate ship's engines flared and died under precise fire from the Prometheus. They could have annihilated those ships, Officer Lee whispered to Commander Jun, who had joined Admiral Tay's staff for the diplomatic mission. Yet they chose to disable them instead. Admiral Tay's tactical officer shook his head in disbelief. The precision required for such targeting. It's beyond anything in our capabilities. Open a channel to the human vessel, Tay ordered. The image of Admiral Kim appeared on his view screen. Admiral Kim, this is Admiral Ta of the Confederation Defense Fleet. We appreciate your assistance with the pirate incursion. Kim nodded. We couldn't stand by while civilians were threatened. The pirate vessels are disabled but intact. Their crews should be unharmed. Your intervention likely saved thousands of lives on Harmony Station, Tay acknowledged. If I may ask, would you be willing to meet in person? I believe it would benefit both our peoples. 4 hours later, in the command center of Harmony Station, Admiral Kim met with Admiral Ta in a historic first face-to-face meeting. Station security maintained a respectful distance as the two military leaders sized each other up. Ta was shorter than Kim but carried himself with dignity. His species featured scaled skin in muted blues and four-fingered hands, but his uniform and bearing made the parallels between their roles clear. Your vessel's capabilities are remarkable, Ta acknowledged after they had exchanged formal greetings. I have served in the defense fleet for 40 years and have never seen such precision in combat. Kim smiled. The Prometheus was built primarily for exploration and defense, not conquest. Humanity has no interest in domination, only in finding our place among the stars. Tai studied the human with cautious respect. Yet you built such a powerful vessel for your first venture beyond your system. We didn't know what we would find, Kim explained. Our history taught us to hope for peace but prepare for challenges. The Prometheus was designed to ensure we could defend ourselves if necessary, while having the range and capabilities for deep space exploration. A wise precaution, Tay admitted, though it has caused considerable concern among some elements of our Confederation. Kim nodded. Understandable. But I hope today's events demonstrate that our capabilities are matched by our restraint. We could have destroyed those pirate vessels with a single salvo. Instead, we disabled them, preserving lives. Tay's expression shifted slightly, the equivalent of a thoughtful smile. Indeed, and that fact has not gone unnoticed. He paused. I have been authorized to resume diplomatic talks. The Council is reconsidering its position on humanity's potential place in the galactic community. As the two admirals continued their discussion, news of the Prometheus's actions spread throughout the Confederation. Public opinion began to shift, fear giving way to cautious optimism about the powerful newcomers who had chosen to protect rather than destroy. The Confederation Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Kim finished his address. 3,000 representatives from 27 worlds sat in breathless attention. The Grand Hall, with its soaring crystal dome that displayed the stars above, had never been so quiet despite being filled to capacity. Kim stood tall at the speaker's podium, his dark uniform a stark contrast to the colorful attire of the Confederation representatives. Behind him, a holographic display showed images of Earth, its blue oceans, green continents, and the orbital shipyards where humanity had built the Prometheus. Yes, Earth has constructed 3 additional Titan-class vessels, he confirmed, his voice carrying clearly through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. Our history is marked by conflict. We built these ships because we didn't know what, or who, we might find among the stars. The admission sent a ripple of murmurs through the assembly. 4 Titan-class warships represented more firepower than many Confederation member worlds possessed in their entire defense fleets. The Artemis patrols our home system, Kim continued. The Athena and Apollo are completing their final trials. Each serves the same dual purpose as the Prometheus: exploration and defense. He paused, looking across the sea of alien faces, some with scales, others with multiple eyes, some floating in special environment tanks. I understand your concerns. Any civilization would be wary of newcomers with significant military capability. But I ask you to consider our actions rather than our potential. When pirates threatened your civilian station, we intervened. When offered the chance to destroy, we chose to disable. When conflict seemed possible, we chose communication. High Counselor Mun nodded slowly. Admiral Kim speaks truth. The Defense Fleet's analysis confirms that the human vessel could have destroyed the pirate fleet in seconds. Instead, they captured all vessels intact with no loss of life. Counselor Han, who had been the loudest voice of caution, rose from his seat. I acknowledge the humans' restraint in that instance, but one act does not prove long-term intentions. Their vessels remain a potential threat, as do yours to us. Kim responded calmly. Trust must begin somewhere, Counselor. Humanity extends its hand in friendship, not conquest. The debate continued for hours as representatives questioned Kim about Earth, human history, technological capabilities, and intentions. He answered each query with patience and honesty, neither downplaying humanity's military capacity nor exaggerating their peaceful intentions. As the session neared its conclusion, Counselor Moon stood. Her elegant robes shimmered in the light as she addressed the chamber. "The Council has deliberated and voted," she announced, her voice solemn. "By a majority of 23 worlds, with 4 abstentions, the Council has voted to offer humanity provisional membership in the Confederation. Your perspective and capabilities could strengthen us all." The chamber erupted in a mix of applause, clicks, whistles, and other expressions of approval from various species. Even some who had argued against the measure now accepted the collective decision. The terms of provisional membership will include cultural exchange programs, technological sharing agreements, and mutual defense pacts. Moon continued. "Full membership can be considered after a probationary period of 5 standard years." Admiral Kim bowed respectfully. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I accept this offer with gratitude and hope for our shared future." Later that day, as Admiral Kim and Lieutenant Park walked through the Confederation capital's Garden District, they paused to admire the alien beauty surrounding them. Plants from 24 worlds created a riot of colors and shapes, floating seed pods that glowed softly in the twilight, trees with blue-silver leaves that sang in the breeze, and flowers that changed color as they tracked the movements of people nearby. The Botanical Exchange Program alone will keep Earth's scientists busy for decades, Kim remarked, reaching out to touch a leaf that curled around his finger in response. Park nodded, her eyes taking in the wonders around them. "It's hard to believe we're really here. First contact, diplomatic relations, and provisional Confederation membership, all within 2 months. The pirate incident accelerated everything," Kim acknowledged. "Nothing builds trust like fighting side by side." They continued walking along the crystalline path, nodding politely to curious Confederation citizens who stopped to observe the humans. Some kept their distance, while others approached with tentative greetings that their translation devices rendered into approximate English. "The Prometheus leaves tomorrow," Kim said. "I've recommended you for promotion to commander. You'll be taking her back to Earth with the news while I remain here as our first ambassador." Park's eyes widened. "Sir, I thank you for your confidence." They stopped at a viewing platform overlooking the capital city. The alien metropolis sprawled before them. Towers of impossible shapes connected by transport tubes, floating districts held aloft by anti-gravity technology, and everywhere, the bustle of a thriving multi-species civilization. "Do you think they'll ever truly trust us?" Park asked, watching the city lights begin to glow as dusk settled. Kim considered the question, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where the planet's rings were becoming visible in the darkening sky. "Trust takes time," he finally said. "But we've taken the first step. Humanity emerged from isolation not to conquer, but to connect. That truth will become apparent with time." He turned to look at his officer. "The Prometheus was built for a world we didn't understand, one we feared might be hostile. Now we know differently. The next generation of ships we build will reflect this new knowledge." As night fell on the Confederation capital, decisions were being made across the galaxy. Military strategists updated their assessments of humanity's capabilities. Scientists eagerly prepared for exchanges of knowledge. Merchants calculated new trade routes to include Earth. And ordinary citizens of 1,000 worlds wondered about these newcomers called humans. On distant Earth, 3 more Titan-class vessels orbited in silent vigil, powerful guardians built for a dangerous universe. But now they would serve as bridges rather than barriers, their might ensuring peace rather than threatening war. News of the humans and their extraordinary vessels spread across the galaxy. A new term entered the lexicon of a dozen languages: human diplomacy. The paradoxical combination of overwhelming strength and deliberate restraint. Some feared them, others admired them, but all acknowledged a simple truth: the galaxy would never be the same again. In his temporary quarters on the Confederation capital, Admiral Kim composed his first official message to Earth. The words came easily. First contact successful. Humanity has a place among the stars. The end.